Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. Buck here. Behind me is my 2007 Ford Edge all-wheel drive, and today's video is all about your traction control system and what happens if, we might have snow on the ground here, but what if you're in dry conditions and you see that traction control light on? What can that possibly mean? That's what we're going to go over today in this video, and we're going to show you the actual parts that usually fail that lead to a traction control light coming on. So thanks for tuning in. Hey, please like and subscribe. I'm going to take you over to the shop and we're going to look at these parts really quick. Okay, folks, here you have it. For the majority of people that are experiencing mechanical problem with their vehicle and you get the traction control light on and you're not in adverse driving conditions, you're basically looking at your components here that will throw that signal. This right here, it's a tone ring, and it goes on the end of a CV axle. Now this one specifically is for a Ford Escape, and these tone rings are actually pretty cheap, and I think on the Ford Explorer, the Escape, and like an F-150, these tone rings, you can buy them for different sizes, so just match the proper diameter for your vehicle. They're not all interchangeable because the Edge, for whatever reason, no one has produced a tone ring that will actually fit on an Edge half shaft. So this one's for an Escape, and it's just a little too small. And I mean, we're talking like a millimeter or two too small. Otherwise, this tone ring would be serviceable on the half shaft for a Ford Edge. So Ford Edge owners, if you go to inspect your CV axles and you notice that a tone ring's broken, which is a common reason that you'd have a traction control light on, then what would happen is you end up having to replace this whole CV axle. I personally would not go with when given the option at an auto parts store, I would not go with their bottom tier CV shaft. That's what this one is, and I ended up going back and taking it off. Just a lower quality product. They're all, you can either get new ones or remanufactured. This one was remanufactured. So I actually drove it for a little while, ended up taking it off and replacing it. Personally, I would recommend someone to have a Precision CV half shaft. This Precision brand seems to be great quality, great packaging. Comes, everything's protected with these spline shafts are protected. The C-clips are good. Those Precision half shafts just have an overall better packaging. Just you can tell. I mean, it's new. It's probably the same type of quality or better that you would get from a Ford Motor Company CV shaft. It's probably about half the cost, but it's still a little more expensive than your remanufactured product. So moving on from the tone ring, once you inspect to see if any tone rings are broken on the end of your CV axles, what I would actually probably an easier check would be to check your speed sensors and all the wiring associated with your speed sensors. And on all four axles, there are these magnetic speed sensors, which they'll sit right next to your half shaft. And basically what happens is every time one of these teeth go by, it picks up on this magnet and lets your vehicle know that your traction control system, like all four wheels are spinning at a proper speed, and it's not like one's not locked up, or one's not spinning and the other three are going different speeds. So that's kind of how your car can utilize the traction control system to help you in icy conditions. And usually that's when it'll engage, it'll kind of stutter a little bit to try to regain traction control. But yeah, so the other check is to go through with all these speed sensors and check to see if they still have a magnetic attribute to them. And I don't know if you guys have seen that Will Smith Wild Wild West movie where they talk about how I think they got those magnetic collars on, and they're running from the giant saw blades that are attracted to these magnets. There's actually, I think they said it's like takes 4,000 years for a magnet to lose its magnetic pull, and experience has shown us that sometimes these speed sensors go bad, so that's kind of an easy check. The magnet actually draws that and sticks to that wrench. And so moving on from that, what ended up being a big issue for us, and I ended up having to go to our local Ford dealership, and I couldn't figure out why the traction control light was still going on. Well, it ended up being the steering angle positioning sensor. And so on your Escapes, Explorers, your Edges, this is actually located in the steering column. It sounds intimidating, but it's really not that hard of a job. Disconnect the battery for 30 minutes, pull the steering wheel off. I mean, it's like wham bam. The longest part of this job is literally waiting for the battery to be disconnected for 30 minutes so you don't have an airbag deployment when you're taking everything apart. It's not really that intimidating. You just got to be careful, be safe. I have a video on removing this on our Ford Edge. So the one caveat to this, though, is this, I think starting in 2011, F-150 pickups, that's when they started going to the electronic steering. And that electronic steering, a big flaw with that is they put the steering angle positioning sensor in the rack and pinion. And so anytime that you have a failure of this sensor, which is actually built into the rack and pinion, it's like a $2,000 repair. So, maybe that might be a reason not to go with the years right around 2011 for a F-150 pickup if you're looking to buy one. But I've seen multiple times in discussions that is a big problem on those F-150 pickups, is the steering angle positioning sensor, and it being like a $2,000 deal. For the rest of us, this and the steering wheel, you're talking $200 tops if you do it yourself. Not really that bad. I went with the Ford Motor Company part just because some of the times this aftermarket stuff, it's not really worth it. So really, guys, I've taken place in a lot of forum discussions and a lot of Ford Edge discussions, and kind of been researching the other Ford all-wheel drive vehicles to learn, where these traction control problems are coming from. And I'm going to say probably about 98% of them are going to be wrapped up in these grouping of parts here. And so if you see that light on, and this is kind of where you're going to want to start. All this stuff, it's really not that expensive. Like I said, maybe $10, maybe $50. If you want Ford Motorcraft, you're talking probably $250. Precision was like around $100. Remand was $75, $200. All the labor associated with all these parts is a lot more expensive if you're doing it going to a dealer to get the work done or a shop. But knowing kind of what you're getting yourself into allows you not to get had at a shop. I've got a video out on replacing the CV axles on my Ford Edge. Really not that intimidating. Man, I can get that done in about an hour tops. So, don't let them overcharge you for labor on that. Like I said, hour tops. This, if you have one of these out, one of your speed sensors out, hour tops. Tone ring, basically the same thing as the CV axle. Actually, it's easier than the CV axle because you only have to pull this end out of the hub. You don't have to pull the whole thing out. So, if you're an Escape, F-150, Explorer owner, this is not really that difficult. Just look to see if any of these are cracked or spinning on the end of your CV axle, because they kind of need to be stuck on there. If they're spinning, you could have a fault. Seen that before in discussions where people said, so when you're going to like accelerate or decelerate, this thing will either not spin or keep spinning, and so it'll kind of it won't match the speed of your shaft, but it'll actually be kind of spinning on its own. So that's the problem with the tone rings when they crack or break. So if for whatever reason I left something out here, comment down below, be part of the discussion. You know, I don't want to necessarily put out misleading information, so hold me accountable in that regard. But really, I hope this information helps you guys out, saves you money when you're working on this stuff yourself. You know, this is kind of tends to be a common problem on the edges, I've noticed, especially on our first generation. But I really just kind of wanted to give you guys a place to start if you have that traction control light on, and obviously, you know, it's not snowing or icy out or wet roads, like standing water. But really, like, this will just kind of be, you should start with all these things because these are what are cheap to replace. You know, shops might like to start with the computers and other stuff that costs, you know, hundreds, if not $1,000 to replace. But I would personally go over all these things myself before I ever, you know, if they diagnose it and say it's a computer, I would, you know, I would be dang sure to go through each of these components to make sure they're functioning properly. If you're going to shops to get your work done, always get a third opinion, a second and third opinion. Don't just go to the first one, and then even if you've been going there for years, they might just see you as easy money. So, you know, I'm not really a fan of mechanics, and I don't think they're a fan of me trying to help you guys out, but really, like, that's kind of, I don't mind cutting into their business because, yeah, they shouldn't be the only ones that hold the information. So hopefully you guys are informed, can make better decisions, and this video added value to your lives. Yeah, please mash that like and subscribe button if you're new here, and I will actually link a playlist with replacing all these parts on my Ford Edge, minus this obviously, but replacing the CV axle. So I'll link a playlist at the end. You can click through, watch it, you know, kind of peruse my channel. I got a lot of Ford Edge videos out there, some other stuff. So, hey, thanks guys for watching. Have a magnificent start to your new year, and yeah, let's make 2018 great. Thanks. Okay guys, thanks again for watching. And I was going through and editing my video, and I realized I didn't have my Shameless Mac T Ford Edge Facebook group plug. So here it is. You gotta check them out. Bill and Mano, they do nothing but help folks over there. And even just the community, there's a whole bunch of people that help people out now. It's not just Bill and Mano. So pretty awesome group. A lot of funny stuff happens over there. A lot of good stuff happens over there. They help a lot of people out. And so you got to check them out. They usually can help a lot of people, even sometimes without Ford Edge related questions. So yeah, forgive Doc McStuffins and the girls playing in the background. You know, got to get back to them. But hopefully this you watched this, and you know, I'll have a link to my playlist over there for all my videos that I worked on my Edge, going through those traction control problems. So yeah, thanks for tuning in guys. Hopefully this video added value to your life.